Have you ever found yourself caught in that familiar dance, where every word you speak, every plea you utter, every explanation you offer, seems to diminish your presence, to shrink your very essence? It's a common trap, isn't it? This relentless pursuit of understanding, this desperate need for validation, this insatiable hunger for control in a world that often feels entirely out of sync with your desires. You find yourself reacting, always reacting, to the whispers, the provocations, the blatant disregard of others. And in that reactive state, you hand over your power, piece by painful piece, without even realizing it. But what if I told you there was another way? A path less traveled, where your most potent weapon isn't a fiery retort or a grand gesture, but something far more subtle, far more profound. Imagine for a moment the immense, almost terrifying power of silence. Not the silence of emptiness, not the silence of ignorance, not the silence of avoidance. No, I'm talking about a deliberate, conscious silence, a silence that speaks volumes without uttering a single syllable. A silence that doesn't just fill a void, but actively shapes the space around it. This is the realm of what many call inverse psychology, a sophisticated strategy employed by individuals who understand the deeper currents of human interaction. They don't resort to crude manipulation. They understand that true influence comes from mastering their own emotional landscape, and by extension, subtly guiding the emotional responses of others. Think about it. In the heat of an argument, when emotions are raw and words are flying like daggers, what is your first instinct? To defend, to explain, to justify, to shout, "Why won't you listen to me?" And what happens? More often than not, the situation escalates, spiraling into a vortex of misunderstanding and resentment. Every word you unleash, every explanation you provide, every attempt to rationalize your position is precisely what the other person expects. It is, in a profound sense, the very reaction they crave, the fuel for their fire. They are in essence testing you, pushing your boundaries, watching to see if you will crumble under their pressure, if you will surrender your composure. But what if you didn't? What if instead of engaging in the predictable back and forth you chose a different path? What if you chose silence? This isn't about being passive, it's about being profoundly active. It's about wielding your absence, your non-response, as an instrument of immense power. It's about understanding that your reaction, or your deliberate lack thereof, can be infinitely more impactful than any elaborate explanation or desperate plea. The ancient Stoics, those timeless masters of inner fortitude, understood this principle deeply. They knew that while we cannot control the external events that buffet our lives, we possess absolute dominion over our internal responses to those events. And it is in that control, in that mastery of self, that true power resides. Consider a scenario. Someone deliberately provokes you, perhaps through a dismissive comment, a subtle jab, or an outright attempt to ignore your presence. Your immediate impulse is to react, to defend your honor, to demand recognition. But this is where the profound wisdom of inverse psychology truly shines. By not reacting, by refusing to give them the satisfaction of your emotional outburst, you disrupt their expected pattern. You deny them the very reward they seek. And what happens then? The silence, your unwavering composure, forces them into a space of profound introspection. They become uncomfortable, not with your reaction, but with their own behavior. You become, in their eyes, an enigma, a puzzle they cannot solve, a force they cannot easily manipulate. This isn't about becoming a cold, emotionless automaton. It's about recognizing that your emotions are yours and yours alone. They are not to be dictated or controlled by the whims or provocations of others. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously articulated this timeless truth. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This simple yet profound statement holds the key to unlocking immense personal power. The next time someone attempts to lure you into their emotional game, to bait you with their negativity, try doing nothing. Simply observe. Watch as they flounder, as they become entangled in their own web of expectations, without a single word from you. Your silence, far from being a sign of weakness, is a testament to your unshakable inner strength, your unwavering self-control. High-value individuals understand this implicitly. They do not desperately offer explanations or endlessly justify their existence. Why? Because they operate from a fundamental truth. Undesirable behavior does not deserve to be rewarded with their valuable time, attention, or emotional energy. Think about those individuals who seem to possess an innate talent for being utterly infuriating, almost as if they're actively trying to compel a reaction from you. The natural human tendency is to think, perhaps if I just give them a little bit of my time, a little bit of my attention, they'll calm down, they'll stop. This is a critical error. This is, in effect, rewarding the very behavior you wish to extinguish. And by continuing to reward poor behavior, you are simply guaranteeing that you will receive more of it. Consider the dynamic where someone treats you with disrespect, perhaps with a dismissive glance or a challenging attitude. Your ingrained instinct might be to fix it, to offer an apology even when you've done nothing wrong, to seek reconciliation. This is a fatal flaw in the pursuit of self-respect. Inverse psychology offers a radically different approach. It doesn't demand that you transform into an unfeeling machine, but it absolutely requires that you resist the urge to fall into the trap. Maintain your silence. Resist the impulse to offer a solution. Has it ever happened that after someone's challenging or disrespectful behavior, you find yourself taking the first step to mend the relationship? That, my friend, is where you relinquish your power. High-value individuals do not reward bad behavior. They are not in the business of earning someone else's favor at the expense of their own dignity. It's a simple, yet profound, equation. If someone treats you poorly, you do not play the role of their rescuer. The essence of inverse psychology lies in the non-response. While they anticipate an emotional outburst, a dramatic confrontation, a tearful plea, you offer nothing. You remain silent. There is no drama, no tears, no lengthy justifications. Just silence. And for them, that silence is a far more potent form of consequence than any word you could ever utter. It's a void they can't fill, a question they can't answer. So, instead of capitulating, instead of allowing yourself to be swayed by their emotional games, act as though their behavior has no impact on you whatsoever, because in truth, it shouldn't. The Stoics were clear on this. Never act on the impulse of emotion. Therefore, the next time you are treated with disrespect, do not become the jester in their emotional play. Do not reward their poor behavior with your precious reaction. Your time, your energy, your emotional well-being are far too valuable to be squandered on someone else's manipulative games. The true power, harsh as it may sound, lies in leaving the other person yearning for a reaction they will never receive. This is what high-value individuals instinctively understand, the art of applying consequence through indifference. Now, let's explore another subtle yet incredibly effective strategy, the strategic use of distance. Have you ever noticed that the closer you become to certain individuals, the more you seem to absorb their problems, their grievances, their relentless dramas? It's as if you transform into their emotional receptacle, bearing the weight of their every complaint. But what if the solution wasn't to flee to a secluded monastery, but something far more accessible, far more practical? Distance. I'm not suggesting you become an expert at vanishing without a trace, but rather that you master the art of leveraging space, both physical and emotional, to your distinct advantage. Imagine someone who relentlessly demands your attention, who constantly seeks your reassurance, who expects you to solve every single one of their existential crises. When you are perpetually available, you become, in essence, their emotional resource, their personal on-demand therapist. But when you introduce distance, when you become less immediately accessible, something profound shifts. This inaccessibility, this conscious removal of your constant presence, often triggers a deep-seated fear within them. Not necessarily the fear that you will abandon them, but rather the fear that they are losing their control over your time, your energy, your emotional availability. The simple fact that you are not always at their beck and call serves as a powerful reminder that you are not their personal customer service representative. available 24/7. How do you implement this? The answer is beautifully simple. Establish boundaries. The next time someone attempts to unload their entire reservoir of frustration onto you, resist the urge to assume the role of their unpaid therapist. Maintain your composure. Do not respond instantaneously to every message, every call, every emotional demand. Do not fall into their emotional trap. If you are perpetually available, your presence, over time, loses its intrinsic value. You become the reliable friend, the constant presence, the one who is always there when needed, but who, ironically, is no longer truly valued. This is precisely where inverse psychology comes into play. High-value individuals do not rush to answer every message, nor do they commit themselves instantly to every request. It's not that they are cold or aloof, they simply possess a profound understanding of their own worth. If someone does not exhibit sufficient respect for their time, what do? They naturally withdraw, and in doing so, they not only safeguard their own space and energy, but they also send an unequivocal message. Your lack of respect for my time is simply unacceptable. It is in this indirect manner that you begin to apply consequence to disrespectful behavior. As the Roman philosopher Seneca wisely observed, it is not that we have little time, but that we waste a lot. High-value individuals intuitively grasp that their time is not a commodity to be freely dispensed. The mere act of not being consistently accessible teaches others to value and respect their presence. So, when someone attempts to encroach too closely upon your boundaries or demands more from you than is reasonable, simply maintain your distance. Because in the end, what people cannot readily possess is often what they value most. And in the process, you impart a crystal-clear lesson on the true meaning of mutual respect. Now let's talk about a feeling that can utterly crush the spirit, that can make the world seem to crumble around you. Rejection. Have you ever received a no and felt as if all your efforts were for naught, as if your very being had been dismissed? It's a gut-wrenching sensation, isn't it? That feeling of being utterly flattened by rejection. But what if I told you that this no is not in fact an ending but a powerful beginning? Yes, you read that correctly. Rejection does not have to be your downfall. It can be the ultimate springboard to your empowerment. Imagine this scenario. You put yourself out there, you take a risk, you seek a connection, and you are met with a firm no. The common reaction is to spiral into despair, to make a scene, to relentlessly pursue the person in the desperate hope of transforming that no into a yes. But here's the game-changing perspective. What if you chose to do nothing in response to that rejection? And by doing nothing, what truly transpires? You become an individual who does not require the validation of others to feel complete, to feel worthy. The rejection, instead of shattering you, paradoxically strengthens you. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or insensitive. Instead, it's about a profound recognition of your own intrinsic value, an internal realization that you do not require external validation from others to affirm your worth. And that, my friend, is where the profound difference lies. True power is not found in begging nor in offering endless explanations. True power is found in walking with your head held high, knowing deep within your core that even though you may have received a no, you remain an incredibly valuable and capable individual. High-value individuals embody this truth with remarkable consistency. They do not pursue, they do not plead. They do not allow themselves to be dragged into the mire of sadness or anger following a rejection. Instead, they perceive it as a clear and unambiguous opportunity to redirect their precious energy toward something or someone who truly aligns with their values and aspirations. When a high-value individual experiences a no, they do not interpret it as a blow to their ego, but rather as a straightforward signal. This person is not in alignment with what I have to offer, and that is perfectly acceptable. Not everyone is destined to recognize your value, and that's perfectly fine. The crucial point is that you, yourself, recognize it. Here, again, the timeless wisdom of Stoicism illuminates the path. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, famously stated that what is outside of our control does not affect us. Rejection is undeniably one of those external circumstances that lies beyond your sphere of control. But what can you control? Your reaction. And what you choose to do with the energy generated by that experience is precisely what will distinguish you. The next time you encounter rejection, remember this. It is simply a no that is gently or perhaps forcefully propelling you towards something infinitely better. Do not allow yourself to be consumed by sadness or by anger. Transform that rejection into an undeniable source of personal power. The yeses will inevitably manifest when you cease chasing them. And if a particular individual fails to recognize your worth, remember this simple truth: that is their problem, not yours. Let's delve deeper into the transformative power of distance. Have you ever noticed that the closer you become to someone, the more challenges and complexities seem to emerge? It's as if proximity itself spawns more chaos than harmony, creating a sort of toxic magnetic attraction. Well, here's a powerful insight. Sometimes the most impactful action you can take is to deliberately step back. I'm not talking about fleeing or abruptly disappearing without explanation. I'm referring to the conscious, strategic deployment of distance, both physical and emotional, as a potent tool to reclaim and assert your control. Imagine you have someone in your life who consistently tests your patience, perhaps by ignoring you, or worse, by only seeking you out when it serves their own convenience. What would be your instinctive reaction? Most likely, it would be to draw closer, to plead for their attention, to relentlessly pursue a response. This, however, is a critical error. This is precisely what they anticipate. This is precisely what grants them control over your emotional state. But what if, instead of leaning in, you chose to give them space? What if, instead of relentlessly chasing them, you consciously retreated a step, allowing the inherent power of distance to do all the heavy lifting? The intrinsic magic of distance is that it forces everything into perspective. When you strategically withdraw, people inevitably begin to ponder your absence. Where is this person? Why aren't they constantly present as they once were? And here's the most compelling aspect. When they begin to question your absence, they simultaneously begin to perceive your presence as infinitely more valuable than they previously had. Suddenly, they see you through an entirely new lens. It's akin to having a tempting piece of cake placed directly in front of you, but for some reason, you don't have the immediate opportunity to eat it. What happens next? That cake, which you might not have been particularly eager to consume just moments before, begins to call to you. The very fact that it is just beyond your immediate reach renders it far more appealing, far more desirable. Distance, you see, cultivates desire. What was once readily available and easily accessible now transforms into something highly coveted, something that is no longer so readily within reach. Let me be absolutely clear. I am not advocating for you to engage in manipulative games or to suddenly vanish overnight. This isn't about being calculated or deceptive. Rather, it is about profoundly understanding that distance is an invaluable method of asserting your control. You, and you alone, determine when to offer and when to withdraw your attention, your energy, your time. That truly is the fundamental key. High-value individuals comprehend this dynamic with unparalleled clarity. They understand that people genuinely value what remains just beyond their grasp. They are not perpetually available, and it is precisely this unavailability that confers upon them a powerful aura. So, the next time someone seeks you out only when it suits their agenda, remember this potent stratagem. Take a deliberate step back and allow the magic of distance to work its profound influence. And as it does, observe how they inevitably begin to appreciate and value you with a newfound intensity. Now, let's circle back to rejection, but from a slightly different angle. Has it ever happened that you've been rejected, and instead of feeling a crushing blow, you've thought, well, this is actually exactly what I needed? If that thought has never crossed your mind, then you're due for a significant shift in perspective. Rejection, far from being your personal downfall, is in fact your most potent, most discreet, secret weapon. And if you haven't yet learned how to wield it, you are undoubtedly missing out on a profound source of power. Imagine yourself engaged in a conversation, pouring your entire being into making a positive impression, only to be met with a casual, "I'm not interested," or a nonchalant, "I don't care." Most people in that moment would plummet into a spiraling abyss of self-pity, desperately begging for a sliver of attention. But here's the profound twist, the true trick. That conventional reaction is precisely the trap. Instead of falling into it, transmute that experience into pure, unadulterated power. Rejection, when viewed through this empowered lens, is not your adversary. It is a profound signal, a clear indication that you are not, in fact, seeking external validation from anyone or anything. High-value individuals, those rare few who rarely receive a no without the other party experiencing a twinge of regret, already grasp this fundamental truth. For them, rejection is merely a polite way of saying, "I don't require your approval to know that I am intrinsically incredible." Now, do you want to unlock the deepest secret? Rejection, ironically, teaches you that you are in control, not the other person. It's almost as if they are inadvertently offering you a profound lesson without even realizing it. What doesn't serve me, I graciously release. What high-value individuals consistently do is not to relentlessly pursue approval at any cost, but rather to meet indifference with a subtle, ironic smile, secure in the knowledge that their inherent value continues to grow exponentially, regardless of external opinion. What is their profound secret? They simply do not take rejection personally. Rejection is rarely, if ever, about you. It is about what the other person cannot, or is simply unwilling to, perceive or accept. But if you possess the intelligence and the foresight to comprehend this, then every single no becomes merely another stepping stone on your inexorable path toward emotional freedom. And how utterly incredible is that freedom? The ultimate power resides in your posture, in your internal stance. High-value individuals do not beg, they do not chase. Instead of desperately seeking explanations or justifications, they simply take a measured step back. People inherently respect what remains just beyond their immediate grasp. If someone rejects you, respond with a subtle smile as if to say, "Thank you, this is precisely what I needed to remind myself of how truly valuable I am." Because in the final analysis, it is not the yes that imbues you with strength, but rather your unwavering capacity to walk forward, head held high, with every single no that life presents. So the next time you encounter rejection, do not dissolve into tears. Do not demand explanations. Embrace that rejection, adorn it with a knowing, even sarcastic smile, and whisper to yourself, "This is fundamentally working in my favor," because in the end, the power is unequivocally on your side, and no one, absolutely no one, can ever wrest that from you. And there you have it, the profound truth distilled into its purest essence. True power, real influence, resides not in your ability to control others, but in your unshakable mastery over your own internal responses. Silence, strategic distance, and the transformative power of rejection are not indicators of weakness. They are profound testaments to your inherent strength, your unwavering self-possession. High-value individuals understand this with an intuitive clarity. They do not allow themselves to be consumed by a desperate need for external validation. Instead, they steadfastly maintain their emotional independence, their internal equilibrium, their profound sense of self-worth. So, the next time someone attempts to manipulate you, to provoke a reaction, to pull you into their emotional drama, simply ignore it. Allow the power of strategic distance to work its magic. And always, always remember this fundamental truth. The real power is not about winning an external battle, but about the profound wisdom of knowing precisely when to withhold your precious energy, when to guard your invaluable peace, and when to choose the profound strength of silence. It is in this mastery that you not only transform your interactions, but fundamentally reshape your entire emotional landscape, becoming the architect of your own unshakable serenity and undeniable power.